Welcome back to Community Matters. I'm Bill LeMay. We're continuing our discussion about the East Durham's Children's Initiative, and joining us now is Leigh Bordly, the Executive Director of LEAP in Durham. And Leigh, thank you for joining us. Welcome.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
Now, I know LEAP is a partner with EDCI. Maybe let me go to you, David. Can you explain what a partnership is?
Absolutely. So the beauty of EDCI is that we don't do the work in isolation. We have about 40 partners, 40 different organizations, interventions that we bring together. They do high quality work and they have evidence behind them. The thought process is that we can line these partners up one behind the other. This way we can move children and families along that journey. And they move from partner to partner as they move along the road towards college or career. This is where Leigh and LEAP come into play as we think about children getting ready for kindergarten back in the zone.
Well, how did you hook up with, how did this partnership, how was it created?
Well, LEAP as a program, the Latino Educational Achievement Partnership, started in 2008 as a group of volunteers came together to tutor Latino adults. And since that time, it's changed and grown. We became an independent nonprofit in 2013, and we no longer serve just Latino children. We've expanded beyond that. We were operating our two-room preschool when David and his colleagues came knocking on my door and explained that they felt like they wanted to do more for 3- and 4-year-olds within the zone as they were stitching together this continuum of services. They felt there was a little bit of a gap at that age group and asked us if we would be interested in partnering. And because we are adventurous spirits and want to serve as many children as possible, we were really glad to do that.
Because this really did kind of start with just an idea in a very small setting to begin with, wasn't it?
Yes, an idea, but an idea that is grounded in the research literature on how children develop neurologically, how children develop socially, how children develop educationally, and we know that to be successful with high school graduation, for example, or adult employment, we need to be working with the youngest children in our community. And that preschool year is an especially critical time frame for preparing children for their formal schooling.
Well, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. What makes your preschool different than all the other preschools? I mean, what do you do differently?
Well, we do a couple of things differently. First of all, we do the standards really well. Our teachers have loving, important relationships with our children, and we know that those relationships are the basis for the learning that goes on in our space. We teach children through play in a developmentally appropriate way, and so we get the basics right. And there's increasing pressure on schools to push children more and more in ways that are not developmentally appropriate. So that's important. That's significant that we do teach children in a developmentally appropriate way. But on top of that, we instruct our children using a dual language approach. We know that children from Spanish-speaking families learn English more quickly and better if they are also strengthening their first language, their family's language. We're also communicating to parents very significantly that we value their culture, that we want their children to remain a part of their family linguistically. So that's really important for those children. For our children from English-speaking families, they're living in an increasingly diverse world. And in Durham, our Latino population has just exploded, and being fluent in Spanish eventually is going to be a critical skill for them. We know that all of those children are actually growing their brains by being exposed to this dual language environment that we've created. So that's one thing that we do that's unique, that's really important.
That is fascinating. And David, here we're talking about building a foundation to take them from preschool to kindergarten and right on. It is important, is it not?
It is important, but you see how lucky we are to have partners like this. And this is what makes this continuum so exciting, is that you can bring together high quality partners who are thinking very differently about how we're going to change outcomes for kids. We already know what we've done in the past 20 years. If we're going to have different outcomes, we have to begin thinking very, very differently about what our approach is.
I agree. I mean, and it's a tough thing to do sometimes in this environment. Everybody's kind of got their little niche, and they're very protective of it. What lessons can you take away from all of this? From Durham right now, it might work in Raleigh or might work elsewhere in the country. Have you been around long enough to determine anything yet?
I think we have, and I think this is, we continue to grow, we continue to learn, and I think Leigh would definitely agree with that. LEAP serves a niche. It's a half-day model. we are creating systems changes, and so that we work with municipalities in Durham to just have childcare subsidies for working parents, childcare subsidies for non-working parents, and then LEAP comes in and just fits in for those kids who are going to be at home for 4 years, who won't know what a cubby is, who won't know what crisscross applesauce is the day they walk into kindergarten. And so that's part of this uniqueness, is that we begin to just meet all the needs, or as many needs as we possibly can, from a community as we think about kids who are kindergarten ready and who are ready to rock and roll the day they walk into school.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Leigh, can you share any personal experiences? I mean, what's it like for you to see, you must see a transformation from the beginning to the end of the school year.
Oh, absolutely. And I've started to feel really bittersweet about this year as we're getting ready to say goodbye to some of our children who are going to kindergarten. Wow, well, I can think of many individual children's journeys, but I think probably the more important thing is what our data is telling us about how these children have grown. I feel it deeply, but we also have the cold hard facts to back up that feeling.
So what does the data have to say about this?
We know, we're just finishing our first full year at the academy, but at our first school, which is called Nuestra Escuelita, we know that over 90% of our children are meeting the nationally established, widely held expectations for children in the areas of social emotional growth, cognitive growth, literacy preparation, those really critical areas that will be grounding their confidence as they walk through that kindergarten classroom. We know that our children can walk in with their heads held high and become leaders. We also follow our children once they enter kindergarten to learn from their teachers and their parents how that, whether they felt like they were prepared once they actually got there. And I can think of one particular child who had a lot of trouble responding to the what we like to think is sort of a loose, comfortable structure, but structure more than he was used to when he started with us. And he went into kindergarten and became a leader in his classroom. That he could tell the children when it was time for circle time, come on, you know, we're coming to the circle, come sit on the rug. Those kinds of things are not insignificant within a kindergarten setting.
That is so neat. You unlocked something in a child that maybe you didn't even know was there, but he or
showed
she
it to
didn't know.
us. Yeah.
Oh, that is so neat. Well, I mean, this is exciting stuff. In fact, we're going to meet the parents of a child here in just a moment. So thank you both for sharing what you're doing with us. I appreciate everything you're doing.
Oh, thank you.
All right, listen, don't go anywhere. You're going to meet a mom and a dad and a boy who wants to know where the lights are. And we'll show them when we come back. Don't go anywhere.